a few more people, so I hope you'll indulge me to wait just another minute or so. I hate to disrespect your having been on time, so I'll start pretty soon. But we're awfully glad to have you this afternoon and hope that you all are doing well. Okay, Missy, I noted that you're going to need a certificate. Thank you for letting us know. I have to admit that I'm feeling pretty excited about this afternoon, talking with you all about something that's really important to me, and that's transition planning of individuals from school to the exciting world of work. And the reason I say transitioning to work is because we are talking about customized employment today. And customized employment has that goal and outcome of working. So today, as I put in the description, we'll be talking about customized employment, particularly as we use the term discovering personal genius and using discovery to learn about the person. I've included a little bit about Social Security and also a little bit about writing goals for a transition plan through school or the individual education plan, the IEP. So I know that we were expecting a few more people, but I'm going to begin now and welcome you officially. Thank you again for being part of this today. This session today. My name is Marcy Hartman, and I've been with Griffin-Hammis since, for a while now, since 2011. Before that, I worked on several projects with that were funded through the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, and that's where I was introduced to transition planning and customized employment. I also worked at Health and Disability Advocates in Chicago, which was a policy and advocacy organization, and that's where I learned about the Social Security work incentives. So as I'm assuming that since you signed up for this, you're already a little familiar with transition. If you don't mind and you want to include in the chat section what I can read the chat. So if you would like to tell me a little bit about your background, that would help me as I move forward, understanding my audience. Thank you very much. So in customized employment, we know that the goal is valued work, and that means that when we think about work and when we think about career planning, we believe that every person can work and every person can or should be paid for the work. We're also of the belief that we're not doing discovery to find out if work is possible, but rather we're looking to find out what work is possible. I learned early on in working in transition that the goal of transition is to be seamless. And that means that the person develops a schedule and routine while they're still in school, so that it is a comfortable transition to not be a part of the school. The only changes will be the support people or possibly transportation. But we want to make sure that everyone has the routine built into their lives while they have the supports of the school system. And after they leave that, when the bus stops coming is the term that I know well from transition, that when the bus stops coming, that person will already have their routine in place. One of the first things that I learned from my friend Wendy Partridge, who's also going to be discussing some of the slides in this presentation, is that we always have the presumption of competence for each individual. So as we begin, we always presume that work is possible and it will happen, and that's because each person is presumed to be competent. So there are similarities between discovery and transition planning, and we want to begin. I should have put this at the very top, because both of these look at the person as the center. Transition planning is all about the individual. Customized employment is all about the individual. So thank you very much for introducing yourselves to me. It's wonderful to see such nationwide participation. Thank you very much. So discovery and transition include getting to know the individual. Sometimes we use the word assessment, but definitely in discovery, it's learning about who is this person. And we do that through interviews, through spending time with that individual, getting to know them in places that are familiar to them, and where they're most comfortable. We want to get to know, where is this person most engaged? When is this person happiest, and what are they doing? We frequently hear from high schoolers that all they do is play video games, or all they do is watch movies. Okay, that's good to understand. What kind of games are they playing? What kind of movies are they watching? We worked with a fellow who watched TV all the time, and his favorite show was that CSI show, Crime Scene Investigation. So we explored that a little bit further, and the importance to that show was the uniform. Possibly the badge, but definitely the uniform. So work was done to explore through an informational interview to find out at the local state police office that this fellow really got engaged with the police at that office, and it was determined that he had skills in cleaning up. So he started a job at the Illinois State Police Department, and after a while they gave him his uniform, and his uniform had CSI written on it because he was the crime clean scene investigator. So when we find out about a person's interests, that helps us figure out what are the ideal conditions of employment, and it helps us to find out more about who is this person. Hello, California. Great to have you. Both transition and discovery require input from the students and the family. Both require a team. And in school, that team, of course, are all of the professionals that are involved with that student. We know that the school system is particularly important because they do have access to um, speech therapists who can help with augmentative communication devices, with occupational therapists who might be able to help us identify certain assistive technology that could be helpful to individuals on the job. So we want to make sure that those teams are together to enrich the students' school life and then have that carry over into post-school. Another piece that's similar between discovery and transition is that both the Discovering Personal Genius report and transition planning are to be written descriptively. They're to be written with non-judgmental terms and just to be just again describing who is this person. Through discovery in particular, we are focusing on strengths and skills. We're also going to identify places that need to be avoided. And we learn about that through the discovery activities. So first of all, I want to say that during this time of upheaval, unprecedented times, I have heard this frequently, and I think that we all need to remind ourselves that it's okay to just be okay right now. But if we are at a time when we can be taking measures to move forward in the discovery of an individual, what we're going to do is find out who is this person, and we're going to do this by finding activities and having this individual do activities to show us their interests, to show us their skills and their abilities. So how do we begin this? We find out what the job seeker does, if they have interests. I believe, yes, we are sending the PowerPoint to you after the webinar. Thank you, Stephanie. We're trying to find patterns. And while it's important to understand interests and hobbies, we want to know what it is that they're doing with their hands or their minds, or how they're actually being active with those interests and hobbies or school activities. We want to know how involved and what involvement do they have with churches and clubs and associations. Looks like it got cut off. We want to find out, where is this person at their best? Well, we want to know that because we need to find out what will be intrinsically motivating to the individual. We had a talk the other day with a person who was working, who wanted to work because they wanted to buy things, but actually when it came right down to it, they didn't really want to work when the person sat in meetings. Well, the problem is that they really didn't know what work was. They knew that some of their friends were greeters at Walmart, or the typical type of jobs. But other than that, they didn't know that it required getting up and making sure you're showered and have clean clothes. They just didn't know. So part of discovery is introducing those types of necessary activities and skills to the person. So this is where we begin. We look at, who is this person? Who are they involved with? Where are their relationships? So the doing part means that we want to get some context to their interests and abilities and skills. We do this by working with the person's team.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I think Marcy may have disconnected. Hold
Okay.
on 1 second. We'll see if we can get her back. Okay, quick update. Marcy's internet just dropped, so we're gonna try to have her call in. So hopefully we should be able to do that and be back in a few minutes.
Hello, everyone. This is Marcy. I cannot apologize enough for the fact that my internet went down. I can't tell you the last time that happened. So I apologize very much. Dallas, my friend Wendy Partridge is on the phone, and I emailed the presentation to her. If it was possible for her to share the PowerPoint, I could continue with voice.
Yeah, she should be able to share it now. I just made her a presenter.
Wendy, are you? Would you like to figure that out with Dallas?
Wendy, in the bar near where the microphone icon is, there's a little, like a square with an arrow in it. If you click on that, it's the share button. You have to share and then click, probably just click share screen share if it's up on your.
Yeah, there's one that says a desktop that you can click if you have the PowerPoint pulled up on your computer.
Wendy, the alternative would be to email it, to forward it to D. Yates, Y-A-T-E-S, Dallas, if you want to put your email address in
Oh,
the
yeah, sure.
chat line. Maybe it would just be easier for her to forward that. And again, everyone, I cannot believe this. I am so sorry. Thank you for your patience.
It happens. It happens. I'll just say while we're waiting to get the PowerPoint back up, I see a lot of you, have experience with transition, and I see a lot of Californians on here. Hi, folks. Oops, I'm not getting it to scroll right now, but.
So I hope I'm not speaking too basically. I can go ahead with the PowerPoint and just be talking with you at this point. I believe I was on to the page about developing a team around the job seeker, helping that job seeker feel supported. Sometimes our job seekers can have the ability to speak quite well for themselves. Others need augmentative communication devices or a greater understanding of their communication style. So we need to make sure that we have folks that have already developed that bond of trust between the job seeker and the team. So treasured teachers are often a great person to have on the transition team. Sometimes it's the assistant, the teacher's aide that knows the job seeker the best. Sometimes it's a sibling or a grandparent. We often laugh that, parents are the last to know some things. And that's one of the things that we've learned through discovery is that when folks go to grandparents' homes for the weekend, the parents don't necessarily know what happened. So I know that one time there was a discovery meeting, and the parents learned at that time that their child had been doing woodworking with their grandparent over the weekend, and they had developed quite a skill. And that was an ability that the parents weren't aware of. So by having a team really helps to support that person with moving their goals forward. We also, in that team, want to look at increasing the social capital surrounding the individual. I guess I'll just do a check-in. Dallas, are you connecting with Wendy okay?
Yeah, she sent me the PowerPoint. Just give me 1 second. I'm downloading it.
Okay, no problem at all. I'm currently on slide 6, ready to move to slide 7, if that helps.
All
Social capital is a term that we want to be using all throughout customized employment, because social capital is how we increase our opportunities to learn more about businesses in our community, that we can develop warm calls with businesses as opposed to cold calls. Social capital can help individuals learn more about interests that they have, even if it's not actually a business. We've had tremendous success connecting people with interest in fishing and connecting others with that same interest. It increases that individual's social circle as well as the whole social capital idea. So I've just moved on to slide number 7, and I can't emphasize enough that when we are trying to learn, when we are going through the process of understanding who is this person, we want to make sure that we are putting together task-based and meaningful actions for the individual to demonstrate to us what their interests are, but also what their skills and abilities are. One of the reasons it's so very important to understand those skills is that we're looking to determine what we call them exploitable skills can we determine of the individual that we could potentially offer to a business as we are negotiating employment. When we go to employers, we have to have something to offer to them. We're not going to employers with, do you have a job? That's not our strategy. We're going to employers to offer a value that this person can help to make their business more efficient. What we're doing when we get to the point of negotiating employment is we're creating an opportunity where none existed before. So again, all of these activities help us to grow social capital, but even more so to get to know who this person is. So while we're at home, and I'm now on slide 8, while we're at home, there are things that we can be exploring. And I wish that all of you could have been, or maybe some of you were on a webinar held yesterday by Marcia Threlkeld of the state of Washington. Marcia gave an astounding presentation about doing discovery virtually. She is quite adept at using different devices. So she demonstrated the use of devices, but even more so, she identified how she starts to develop that bond of trust with the person that's going to go through discovery. So that's what we need to be doing. We need to introduce ourselves to the individual and then let them introduce themselves to us, hopefully through Zoom or FaceTime. And I will be so interested to hear how you all are doing your work with your students during this time. But what we need to understand, and hopefully we can do this through devices, is to find out what a typical daily schedule involves. What we really want to know, or what we're really looking to find out, is how does a person go through their day? What types of supports is it that they need? We want to understand, how does this person learn? Do we need to do picture cards to help teach them a new skill? But we basically want to find out, what do they already know, and what are they good at? What do they enjoy? What we suggest during this time is to be taking pictures and videos. So while we're trying these new activities, there's some things that we want to be aware of and things to explore. We want to find out, as I just said, what works in teaching new skills and what doesn't work. we want to find out where this person is at their best, and but also just as important, what activities and locations and people do we need to avoid. As we're moving through discovery, we are always taking the positive approach about the individual. So we want to not talk about the barriers so much as what things will we be avoiding in the future. I saw something on Facebook, the latest news feed, about things that the kids could be learning while they're at home during this unusual time. So I wrote just a few of them down on slide 10, and it's simple things like, how do you make a phone call? How do you sew on a button? How about, how do you introduce yourself? One parent I heard recently said she didn't realize how many steps it really does take to teach correct hand washing. And so that was something that she was working on with her adult or near adult child. Things like how do you check the air pressure in a tire, or how do you put air into a bike tire? How do you change a light bulb? So these discovery activities can be relatively mundane, but can offer us so many opportunities to learn about this person, how they learn. One of the things that I have at the bottom of the slide is how to ask for help. And isn't that an extremely important skill for all of us to have? How to plan a healthy meal. So that was another thing that parent said, was that by having her child pick out a recipe with her and go through all of the different steps, including making out a grocery list, not necessarily going to the grocery store at this point, but then setting out all of the ingredients, setting out the different measuring cups, going through all of those different steps can be such an enlightening exercise for us. And again, when we learn that a person has judgment of different sizes of measuring cups or spoons, that could very easily transfer to working in a bakery, couldn't it? Or it could transfer to, of course, now it's not coming to my mind. Maybe someone will put it in the chat box and someone will tell me how that could transfer. But those are important pieces that we know that could be transferred to an individual or into a job. So I'm getting to the point where I'd really like to introduce Wendy Partridge to you because she is the ultimate in teaching me about neighborhood ideas on how to get to know the community, how to get to know people in the neighborhood. These are people that could be increasing social capital, but also it offers your students, your job seeker, opportunities to grow their circle. So Wendy, I'm at slide number 12, and if you wouldn't mind introducing us to Quinn's Kraut, I'd appreciate that, your help. Thank you.
Wendy, you may need to unmute your microphone.
Somehow I am getting the chat section. Are you there, Wendy? Okay, I'm looking at the chat section, and Amanda was quite helpful to remind me that working in a lab is a possibility with around chemistry. So thank you very much for answering that. And Stephanie, I am so glad that you were able to be on Marcia's presentation yesterday. Wendy, you interrupt me when you are able, but in the meantime, I'll start talking. Dallas, is the PowerPoint up?
Yeah, can everyone see it? I'm pretty sure it's up.
Okay, so slide number 12 has several pictures of Quinn. Quinn is a person that did not enjoy school. So Quinn actually graduated at age 18, but his mother and his team, which is called Heroes of the Game, have worked to understand where Quinn is happiest. And what we know for sure is that Quinn is happiest when he is busy. So Quinn has been working very hard with his team on improving nutrition and his overall health. And one of the ways that he's doing this for himself is by eating sauerkraut to help clean his gut. That's what I remember Wendy saying. So we've got a couple of pictures here of Quinn buying some of the supplies, buying the jars that he needs to put the kraut in, making home deliveries. He makes home deliveries, or he goes to the post office and mails them. And then he also writes thank you notes to his customers. So what Quinn has done to build his social capital and his team, the Heroes of the Game, and that includes his family and family friends, is to approach work. For some reason, it says that, Wendy, it needs to be unmuted. I don't understand why that is. But I'll keep talking until she's
I'm not.
able.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not showing her as muted. She might have to log out and then rejoin. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is.
Okay. Well, I'll keep on talking then, and I'm really, really, really sorry for this technical difficulty, Wendy. You've been so helpful to me. And so they've just been doing a tremendous amount of work towards increasing Quinn's social capital. And the importance of this in respect to transition is that the more connections we can have with folks, the more opportunities can arise. She gave several explanations about how the fact that he was volunteering at a garden center, and that led him to a connection with a person who helped him start his own apple orchard. So soon he hopes to be selling apples and making applesauce. In the meantime, he's making and selling sauerkraut. And that sauerkraut, Wendy sent me a lot of pictures of the methods that he goes through in cutting the, cleaning and cutting the cabbage and smashing it, I believe was the word she used. And then I believe the word is fermenting. So Wendy, speak up whenever you're ready. He also he learned how to plant garlic, which led to a garlic workshop, which then led to having a party. His team is also called a circle, and that circle is helping him with additional ideas to move him forward in his goals for work. His besides his self-employment, he is also the waterer at the local Home Depot, which is a job that Wendy, his mother, created for him with the manager at Home Depot. So, Wendy, I'm sorry, but I'm moving along, and we only have a few minutes left, and I have so much more to go. So, again, we're not only looking at interest, but we're looking at what the evidence of that interest, and we need more than an expression of interest. For instance, it took more to find out about what liking to watch the CSI show to understand that really what was important to that young man was that he wanted to wear the police uniform, and the employer, his police buddies, helped him with that. So again, discovering personal genius is assistance versus assessment, and we're not relying on data from school so much as learning more from actual activities. So we want to also consider, I'm on slide 17, we want to consider career goals which will lead to financial growth as well. So I've included a few slides here, but I'll go really quickly so I don't belabor it. That this, at age 18, might be the time that you're assisting folks in transition to connect with public benefits. So we want to make sure that we understand that process. So when the PowerPoint is sent to you, you'll get the link to SSI, apply for benefits or apply for disability online. Here's what you can be doing during this time of Safer at Home. You can be gathering the documentation. This documentation is going to include past IEPs, transition plans, doctor, medical, psychological reports, but even more so, where you can be so very helpful, is to describe the work activity that you have assisted your job seeker into. You'll have to describe how it was that, or what it took to help this individual get into employment. It's really important that we describe what it took to create a job opportunity, what supports were received to make that job successful, what didn't work about that job is very important. The interesting thing about this is, the sad thing about it is that in applying for Social Security, you need to make the individual sound bad. I can't think of any other way to put it except that Social Security does not want to hear that, oh boy, he learned how to write his name, or, oh yes, he could work, but it was an hour at a time, and that included 2 breaks within the hour. So we need to be very descriptive in how this person worked. What Social Security is looking at regarding the definition of disability is this person working and earning what's considered substantial gainful activity? And this year in 2020, that amount is $1,260 in a month. So if the person is not working at that level, it is up to you to be helping the family with that description of why they're not. And it can't simply be that they're in school, because they need to, this individual is being looked at as an adult, and they need to have an understanding of what's keeping them from working at that substantial gainful activity level. great news. When a student does become a recipient of supplemental security income, there are fantastic working incentives. One of the first things that we want to help people with, even before they get on benefits, is it is so important to start working and earning money and paying into the FICA tax system, because that is how a person can get attached to the Social Security Disability Program, by paying into their own work record. For most of us, we had to earn 40 work credits, but for individuals up to the age of 24, they need to earn 6. So only earning 6 credits is a heck of a lot easier than the full 40. So it's really important that we're helping individuals before the age of 24 to earn those 6 work credits. And this year, it takes earnings of $1,410 a quarter to earn 1 work credit. So once a person receives is on SSI, they're also eligible for the student earned income exclusion. And what a tremendous opportunity this is, an empowering work incentive. That's why I love Social Security work incentives, because it really helps the person's growth. This year, if a person earns $1,900 a month, they do not see any impact to their monthly SSI cash benefit. $1,900 a month, plus they keep that measly $763 a month that they were getting at their as their monthly benefit. Now, you all are probably aware that under supplemental security income and Medicaid rules, you can only have $2,000 in resources, in money in your account, in your savings or checking. So that moves us on to, for students, we might want to be looking at a plan for achieving self-support. And I hope I'm going to have a little bit more time to look into that. But I wanted to call your attention to these work incentives as being another incentive to work. Moving on to slide 20. When we're looking at transition and IEP goals, we want to make sure that we're looking at tasks through discovery. And we're looking, the focus is on employment as the outcome, where assessment is more observation and interview rather than testing and comparing to another person. In discovery, team members meet frequently, and in discovery can take anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks, or it could take the whole school year as well. It's always looking at who is this person. So there are actually some similarities between transition and IEP goals. So I wanted to take just a quick moment to look at some potential plan goals. And it's really important that we make sure that we have timelines and criteria for mastery for the school paperwork. So one example would be that by May 2021, Paula will complete 8 informational interviews to determine preferred conditions for employment and her interests. And criteria will be measured by completion of 2 assessments per quarter. We have that there's a completion of 2 job trials by a certain time period in different work atmospheres, or environments like the cafeteria or the office. So I gave an example of some independent living goals as well. And I do want to credit my colleagues, Mickey Watkins and Paula Bradford, for their help in with those goals. I wanted to talk just quickly about Hardback Yo-Yo, because his story began in high school at age 18 when he was applying for supplemental security income. He met the definition of disability, and after he did that, he set out to start a business. And the reason he started this business was because he was an individual that lacked some social connections. Connecting socially was problematic for him. So his mother and he worked together to start up this business that allowed him to enlist help from his classmates to increase his connections with people of his own age. The business he developed, called Hardback Yo-Yo, was taking old hardback books that he found at rummage sales, garage sales, and frankly from the local library. I didn't realize until I worked with him that the library will discontinue use of books if they're not being used or if they are overused. So what he did was he used a plan for achieving self-support to, at one point his goal was 6 months to do discovery. That was his occupational goal, because you have to have an occupational goal with a plan for achieving self-support. So with this goal, he asked to purchase a heavy-duty cutting machine that would cut the bindings off of hard-covered books. Now, some of the products that he did, the previous slide shows a book rack of what he calls journals. He would cut the spine off of the book, take much of the pages out, leaving some chapters within, and then adding blank papers and using a spiral binding to turn them into journals. He started this work and chose specific book titles that he could share with his psychologist or his medical doctor as thank you gifts. The other picture is he's used the inside pages of books to make book caves, and I have that word later on. Excuse me. So this mini micro enterprise allowed Brian to be an entrepreneur. It allowed him to increase his friends. It allowed him to, he had a passion in saving the environment. And by not having those books go into the landfill, he was able to upcycle them. So he combined his passion for books and the environment into the development of this business. Through this business and through the plan for achieving self-support, he helped to pay for himself to go through to earn an Associates of Arts degree from the local community college to be a library assistant. He is most proud, and his mother was most proud, that he earned his 6th work credit through this business so that he started earning his own SSDI and was on Medicare before he turned age 24. That was a huge goal of his mother's. He did this with a team. As we said, he needed supports with financing and handling money, but he sells through different venues. And as I said, he was not only able to earn enough money to earn those work credits, but then also to sustain himself, to improve his life through income. I can't believe that it's just about 1 o'clock, and I come to the time that we could take questions. Between all the technical difficulties and my talking faster than I've ever talked in my life, I wonder if there are questions.
Okay, we have a question from Amanda who wants to know, how do you I'm assuming that means formulate. How do you formulate your discovery for transition?
Okay, in customized employment, we have what is called a discovery staging record. And if you went to the Griffin-Hammis.com website, you would be able to see that form. We do provide various types of training. Both right now we're doing virtual training and for a certificate program through the Association for Community Rehab Educators, if I remember correctly. So you could check out our website. But customized employment is a strategy. It's a process. And yes, it begins with discovery. And discovery begins with getting to know this person. We usually start with a home visit. And during these times of people being safer at home, we are looking at different modes or methods of having a virtual home visit with a person. To me, the most important piece is that development of a relationship with the job seeker. So as Marcia told us yesterday, we want to make sure that we start that relationship on a foundation of trust. I hope that helps, Amanda.
Okay, we're a little bit over time, but there's one more question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, yep. This is from Sarah, who says, what are the main differences between regular discovery and for transition students?
It's not very different. It's a matter of including the team at school during the school year to do the discovery. There really isn't a difference. It's just a matter of doing the activities and having interviews with people who know who this person is, where they're at their best while the student is in school. As I showed, you could be doing setting a goal for to do different interviews with businesses to learn about different industries that this job seeker might have expressed interest in, or that you're gathering from what you learn about the person. So the reason we did this presentation today is to show how you can do discovery while a student is in the process of transition from school to work. And I don't remember saying it, but it's certainly true that it's never too early to start transition. It's never too early to start work. And we want to be able to do that with all of the supports within the school system, as I said, with the different therapists and teachers and specialists. Did that help? there really isn't a difference between regular discovery and transition for students. It's just a matter of getting it started during the school year, which is awesome. On my last slide, I said, because in the description for today that, we probably have time to talk about solving world peace. And sure enough, I don't have any time left to solve world peace. So I want to encourage you to feel free to contact me through the information on the last slide. And I would look forward to speaking with you further about this. Many of the states that I saw that were included or represented during this webinar are supporting training for people within your state at different agencies or at the state level. So if that's a way that we could help get you connected to some training, I'd be more than happy to speak about that with you. I see any suggestions or resources for families who maybe are not considering employment for their children. I guess what I would like to say in answer to that question or comment is, let's look at why they're not. Because again, we feel that every person has a gift to offer. And so if it's fear of loss of those cash benefits or access to health, let's connect them with a work incentives planning and assistance project in your area to speak with a community work incentives coordinator to address that fear. If they're fearful about the safety of their job seeker, we want to address that as well. The integrity of customized employment is to ensure that the conditions of employment meet any fears of safety for a person. We want to make sure that the natural supports are in place to ensure the safety of that individual, and any job assistance supports that might be necessary are there. But when we negotiate employment, that's one of the very first things that we address is this situation going to be a good and safe fit for the individual? So I'm not sure if that answered you, because we're all about getting work. So if they're not considering employment, we'd love to talk about why not, and how can we work with them to answer fears. Okay, Rachel? Oh, for heaven's sakes. My internet just came up on my computer now. I've been reading these comments on my phone, but now it's on the computer. So timing's everything. Thank you for your patience with me today. And I do hope that we can have a better experience in the future. If there aren't any more questions, I'll say goodbye for now, with the hope that you will get in touch with me with any questions or comments. And I thank you for your participation today. You're so welcome. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Janet.